Good afternoon, this is Rich Nelson with Allendale with the wrap-up comments. This is February 16th of 2012. So it's a Thursday morning. We had weekly export sales, and numbers actually were good for corn, and as far as soybeans and wheat, kind of neutral here. So we had a little positive influence for corn from the weekly export sales number. We now have a few weeks in a row where we do have evidence that U.S. corn exporters are getting some business from Argentina. Other news of supportive nature here, the U.S. dollar was higher this morning, as much as 30 points, 40 points or so, right around the corn opening. We got to point out it did reverse course. In fact, the last trade down about 32. So U.S. dollar reversing course by as much as 60-point swing during the day. That certainly did also help support grains as well. Other news to speak of course, we did have the Chinese delegation purchase or agree to purchase at a future date the 12 million tons of U.S. soybeans, as Paul mentioned this morning, and that really pretty much was just written off once the trade was started here today. So kind of more of a neutral effect here for the soybean trade on that issue here. So we had the weekly export sales, the reversal in the U.S. dollar affecting corn. Additionally, we had a little surprise here today as well from the Argentine government in their first release of crop estimates yet for the season. They suggested the corn crop 20.5 to 22 million tons, and USDA is at 22 in last month. So maybe USDA needs to trim their corn number a little bit as far as the Argentine estimate. The Argentine government also put out a number a little surprising on the soybeans. They said 43.5 to 45 million tons. USDA is actually a bit higher, up to 48 in their latest estimate. So USDA probably will be dropping some Argentine soybean numbers on the March supply-demand report. So those numbers were supportive here today. But as far as corn, up 9 1/4. Soybeans, we were not able to hold gains, down about 2 3/4. Wheat was a little different story. We had some good news on wheat here for the overnight purchases. Egypt did end up buying about 180,000 tons of U.S. wheat. Taiwan bought 85,000 tons of U.S. wheat. So those were a little supportive things to speak of as well here. On the livestock, we've got a kind of a new story we've got to talk about here. Typically for livestock, we do get some seasonal buying as we prepare for warm weather, things like that. For hogs, we get a rally starting maybe in mid-April, and it goes until summer. For the cattle, you do have a kind of a minor push going into March or April before overwhelming supplies kind of offset that good summer demand. So we do usually have a peak from March, April, then going down into the summer. But what's interesting right now is some people are suggesting that this market may already be seeing some warm weather buying. The fact is we have temperatures almost 10 degrees warmer than normal. This has been going on all during winter, and that could mean that maybe the spring weather as well is about 10 degrees warmer. So that, in other words, we could have an earlier than usual start to warm weather buying. And some people are suggesting that grocers are already trying to price that in right now, and maybe even doing some procurement. So with that in mind, cattle up 75 cents today on the April contract. New highs yet again for the April contract. A new high close for the April contract as well. Midday box beef up 87 cents for choice and $1.34 for select. So good news to speak of on the cattle. And it looks like as far as cash cattle, we haven't traded it yet here today. But very supportive news, seeing that packers do have bids 123 and 124, so equal with last week's price. So if they're already bidding equal, that means they certainly will be buying at maybe $1 higher, maybe even $2 higher here. Asking prices 127 to 128. So good news to speak of on the cattle here today. And for the hogs, up $1.17 on the April contract. On the hog side, as I said before, we do have maybe the seasonal strength coming in here a little earlier than usual here. And certainly as far as that goes, we also got the cash hogs trading steady to $1 higher. It's interesting to see that cash hogs are also finding some strength, even though we're going to have 2 packing plants down on Friday and 2 more down on Monday. So even though packers are buying less cash hogs due to lower kill numbers, the fact is cash hogs are finding strength. That's a surprising issue and something we got to point out here, which sees some strength right now. So these issues are going on here in the livestock market and maybe changing some short-term ideas. As far as bigger picture issues here, we do have, as I said yesterday, We've got a few things lined up. Of course, this Chinese delegation is now old news. Next week we have USDA's USDA annual conference. They call it the Ag Forum. And of course we have, once we get into March, we start looking at plantings a little more seriously. For the short term, on tonight's report, we've got some neat little charts we're going to put out regarding China's corn balance sheet, China's soybean balance sheet. Kind of explain who's supplying China with all these imports, certainly on the soybean side, that you might be interested in here. On the livestock side, we will cover, as far as a chart, a little more in depth, this type of seasonal strength we just mentioned for livestock. So keep in mind, for you guys who are subscribing, take a look at those pages. If you're not subscribers yet, feel free to give us a call here at Allendale. Get your own subscription lined up. We certainly have some great things we can talk about with you, and certainly some good information we hope to supply you with here. Give us a call, 1-800-262-7538. This is Rich Nelson. Have a good trading day and a good trading week.